Hi everybody! So you might notice that this video is in a different background, different location. I'm actually in my room today because my family is here, so I can't film in the kitchen. So the lighting might be a little bit worse, or I don't know, but it's different, so I thought I'd get that out of the way in case anybody asks. And yes, this is a mural of my own face that I did on my wall like a year ago, something like that. So again, just in case anybody asks, that is what that is. So in this video I'm going to be talking about tic attacks. Some people call them tic fits. I just call them tic attacks because that's the first way I heard it. But they're both the same thing, I'm pretty positive. So what a tic attack is basically when your tics become so concentrated and keep piling up on top of each other until you have a huge burst of them all at once and you can't stop, and they're like just happening right one after another. That is a tic attack or a tic fit. So I have had quite a few of these. They're just like tics in the way that they are suggestible when, like, if I'm talking about them or if somebody's bringing them up, if like it's in my mind a bunch, it is possible that it will happen, which really sucks because it is very unpleasant, and so I don't really want it to ever happen. When I tell people I have tic attacks, they usually want to know how to help if they see me having one. There isn't a lot you can do, like there isn't some magical way to fix it. You basically just help the person stay relaxed, you help them calm down, remind them to breathe. It really depends on the person. Sometimes people don't want to be touched. Sometimes it's best to stay a little ways away from them in case they smack you. One thing you can do is, especially in my case, I usually flail my arms out and try to smack things, which can cause bruises and rug burns and all that kind of stuff. So a good thing to do is move away any hard objects that are right next to them, so they won't damage themselves on those. And if they can't be moved, then put like some cushions or something in front of them. So that's pretty much the only thing you can do. You just kind of have to wait for it to be over. Tic attacks can be any amount of time, really. They can be anywhere from 30 seconds, a minute, all the way up to like an hour, multiple hours. So most of mine have been at the 45-minute, hour, little over an hour range. The shortest one I've had was probably 20 minutes, half hour, but that was only one. And so the first one I ever had, it was during the night. I was out in the living room by myself. My mom and my sister were both asleep, and I could feel the tics bubbling up and like wanting to force themselves out, even though I was already ticking, and it just kept building up more and more. And eventually I was sitting on the ground because I was just doing stretches and stuff while I watched TV, and I was just ticking so much that I had to stop. And I had seen and read about tics online before, with like other people on YouTube who have documented their tic attacks and their tics. So I kind of suspected that that's what was happening. I didn't know how bad it was gonna get. I wasn't positive if that was what was happening. So I was texting some friends. One of my friends has Tourette's. And so I was saying that I think I might be starting to have a tic attack, like I've never had one before, I don't know what's happening. And eventually I was on the floor lying down. It almost looked like a seizure, kind of. Just constant jerking and moving and flailing around. I could barely talk. In that first one, in most of them actually, I don't have a lot of I don't have any like word tics usually. It's mainly just gasping noises and mainly all movements, mainly motor tics. So that was happening, and it was at almost like the worst of it, and it took quite a while to get to that point. It was just getting worse and worse and worse, and then when it got to that point, I just didn't really know what to do. I knew that I just kind of had to wait it out, but it was freaking me out a little bit, and so I called my mom from the living room floor. She was just in her room down the hall, but I couldn't get there, and so I called her. She picked up like almost right away, but she was asleep, and I just said, I think I'm having a tic attack and I don't know what to do. So she's like, okay, I'll come out there just a second. So she came out there and she just tried to relax me and was talking me through it, and tried to make sure that I wasn't smacking into things. She would kind of cushion between me and like the couch and the chairs and stuff like that, and tried to help me breathe and all of that stuff. And it eventually stopped, but it was over an hour from when it started getting worse and worse to the very end when it was like completely over. It was probably around like hour 20 minutes, something like that. And so my mom was probably a little freaked out just because it looked so bad. She sort of knew what tic attacks were, not as much as I did, but she had like looked it up afterwards and all that stuff. And so we like weren't freaked out that it was something else, but it was still pretty freaky because it's a very serious form of Tourette's, I guess. Some people with Tourette's don't have tic attacks. So then we knew that it was that bad. And so we got through that, and I have had, let's see, probably about 7 since then, maybe. That one I had, and then there was quite a bit of space between that one and the next one. Not a ton, maybe a few weeks, a month maybe. And then the next one I had started this big string of ones. So in 5 nights of time I had 4 tic attacks, so I was almost having one every single night. Seemed to get worse when I was tired, and that's when they would happen. That was a very unfun week. That was one of the times when I was really unhappy with my Tourette's. Usually I'm pretty positive about it and it doesn't bother me that much, especially not as much as it seems to bother some other people. Not saying that they're bad people or bad with their disorder or anything, their syndrome, but some people don't handle it very well, which is very understandable, but I try to keep the most positive look on it that I can. So I had all 4 of those. My worst tic attack was in that bout of 4. I was throwing things and hitting the walls, and it lasted for a long time, and it was painful and exhausting. So that was the worst one I've had to date. Then after those 4, I didn't have one for a really long time, like months. And then I had one at my dad's house, which I'd never done before. And that one was pretty bad. It wasn't one of the worst ones. It was pretty bad though. I just had to lay on the floor, and they put cushions all around me and under me, and my uncle was holding my hand, which helped not to like smack myself with it. Before I was laid down on the ground, that one gave me probably my worst injury, which still wasn't very bad, but I was sitting on the couch before it actually got bad, so I had been smacking the wall really hard, and so I got this big bruise along my hand and my wrist. From the very first one I got big rug burns on my elbows and on my fingers from lying on the ground and moving around. But that bruise was probably the biggest injury I've had. I've never like broken or sprained anything like that. I can usually hold myself back enough that I don't badly injure myself. And then the last one I've had since then has just been out in the living room. It was the shortest one that I've had to date. It was the like 20 to 30 minute long one. It was definitely less stressful, less taxing. It was still very stressing on my body and painful, but it was definitely the best of all of them, which I'm very glad about. And I haven't had one since then. I probably will have some again in the future. Hopefully they will be less harsh and shorter, but who knows, anything could happen. So I think that's all I have to say about Tic Attacks. I hope this was informative and enjoyable to watch, and I hope you guys keep liking the content I put out. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!